Well, good morning, folks. This is DIYDave here. It's been a while since we did a video. The world has changed a lot since we put our last video out, but we are going to persevere because the DIY world never stops. Hope you are well and safe. We're going to take a look at my daughter's 2013 Corolla. She was going to go out last night for our family and pick up some dinner at one of our local restaurants through their takeout service that they are providing in our town. And she came back in the house and told me that her car started making a really funny noise as though the car were missing or skipping. And for her to use that expression is a little unusual because she's not particularly mechanically inclined. So it concerned me. Her car's been running fine, so this is kind of out of the blue. Hopefully it's something simple, but we thought we'd do a video and see if we can come up with something interesting out of it. Thanks for joining us, and let's see what we find out. Okay, let's see what we see here. We're just going to kind of do this on the fly. This is not going to be the slickest video I've done, but we'll just kind of see what we hear. I don't hear a thing. It sounds completely normal to me. Oh, I think we figured it out. Oh my gosh, I think we figured it out. The rail that holds the hood popped loose from the securing arm, and it just started bouncing on the inside. And the vibration is what she was hearing. I think her car is just fine. Well, that's good news. Three tiers for visual inspection. We'll take it around the block and make sure we don't hear any weird noises, but I think this is going to be a simple non-problem. Not hearing anything unusual here. Yes, I know my seatbelt is not on. I am driving around the block. I'm sorry for the beep. Now I do hear a little bit of a clicking. I will say I do hear a little bit of clicking in that right front wheel. When I come to a stop and I hit the brakes. If you can hear it in the video, but I definitely hear a clicking. All right, well, I'll tell you what I want to do. We may jack the car up and we may take a look at that right front wheel, but I don't think there's anything chronically wrong going on with the engine. So we'll roll out our jack and take a look at that right front wheel. Okay, we've got the Corolla jacked up here. We've got it under a jack stand so we can take a look at this wheel under here. The thing I want to eliminate are the possibility that we have either a possible suspension problem, either a ball bearing that's clicking or perhaps a CV axle. Now the first thing I'm noticing under here is that the CV axle boot is not torn or damaged. The one thing that I would point out is that a couple of months ago my daughter she clipped the side of a construction guardrail in a heavy construction area on the north side of town where she drives to school. And it tore up the tire and the wheel on this very wheel, and that's where I think I'm hearing the clicking. So that makes me suspect the possibility that we have damaged either a ball joint or possibly a wheel bearing, and even less likely the CV axle in some way. Now, I did have to replace the wheel. The wheel is balanced, got a new tire. The tire was balanced, so I think I'm pretty safe in eliminating those as possible causes. So right now, I look at the I spin the wheel and I see that the CV axle boot that you can see right there, it's intact. It's not torn. The area around here is completely dry, so I don't see any obvious damage, and I see nothing that would indicate it's out of place. I don't see anything that would indicate any kind of stress or failure in that situation. So what I'm going to do now, there is the lower ball joint. So I've got my basic prying tool here. I'm going to try to do this and tape it at the same time, which is not always easy to do, but we're going to try. Here, let me switch hands because I'm right-handed. Okay. Okay, there, I've got a good pry there, and that ball joint is not moving at all. If I've got that in frame. Okay, here we go. Got that in frame. I am prying there. That ball joint is not moving at all. It's good and solid. There's no play, so I don't think we have a damaged ball joint there. Now there's another joint at the end of that tie rod I want to check out. We'll check that out too. Again, looking at the same CV axle from the opposite side, and we spun the wheel, so we would have seen any tears, and there's no fluid leaking out. We're going to take a look at the end of this tie rod right here. Again, it's not torn, doesn't appear to be leaking, so I don't think we've got any problem here, but we'll give it a little bit of a test for play as long as we're here. And again, I just don't see, again, I'm doing this a little blind, so I'm hoping that's in frame. But there's no play there too. So, and for our last check, we've got the steering wheel lock on, so let's do our basic test here. There's no play in that wheel bearing at all. That is rock solid. And this wheel vertically and horizontally is stable. We spin it. Now I do hear, now there's definitely a click. I can sure hear that. Okay, I'm hearing a clink on exactly 1 revolution. So there is something going on, but I'm not sure what it is at this point. So I think the next thing we're going to do is we're going to take this wheel off and have a closer look. Okay, we had to get us a fresh camera battery, so all we're going to do right here is we're going to loosen the bolts on the wheel, take the wheel off, and just see if there's anything conspicuous around perhaps the braking system, brake components that might explain that curious little click that we're seeing. Whoops, wrong way. What is going on? Good heavens.
that bolt is not wanting to come off. And the thing about it is, that's not the wheel that's binding it. Now it is exceedingly unlikely that we're dealing with a rust issue because we just don't have that. And I'm going to put a little PB blaster on there. And we're going to let that sit for a few minutes and try it again. Okay, through the miracle of TV and video, it's been about 5 or 10 minutes, so that PB blaster has had plenty of time to soak through. Now, the one caveat I will offer is that I'm a little bit limited with options, because if this doesn't work, I don't have a torch. That would be the next step for getting off a grumpy bolt. And if this bolt is in fact cross-threaded or stuck on in some way, I have nobody but myself to blame, because I was the one who put this wheel back on once we put the new tire on it. I just used my torque wrench and torqued them all down to the same spec, so I don't know how it would have gotten over torqued, but that makes me suspect if it's possibly cross-threaded. Hope not. I am only moderately optimistic this is going to work. That is just not going, folks. Wow. Well, believe it or not, one more try with the impact finally got it off. Unbelievable. I've never done anything like that before. But let's take a look and see if our suspicion that we had some damage on the brakes is for real. Okay. Okay, I may have been a little premature, because what I thought was a score on the drum is actually just the edge of the mating surface, and it's below the line. It's below the line of the brake pads, so that's not a score on the drum after all. So I was wrong there in my initial assessment. But I can see, I think, that we have damage. There's definitely appears to be damage on this stud right here. That looks like we're going to have to replace that stud, because if I put that back on there, that bolt's going to do the exact same thing it just did. It's going to seize up and be next to impossible to get off. Oh, well, you know what? Oh my gosh! It just occurred to me what's going on, guys. I just noticed that the caliper bracket, the caliper housing here, was not secured over the pad, and the stinking caliper is loose. This bolt is gone, and I just now noticed it. Oh my stars! The bolt is gone, and that's got to be the noise we've been hearing. We figured that problem out. And I just so happens I have a spare set of brake bolts for this car. Let's go get them. Well, because I had a problem similar to this several months ago with a caliper bolt breaking, I had a whole bolt kit that I picked up from the local AutoZone. So it happens that I have an extra caliper bolt.
So we got to be able to fix this problem, at least the part with the caliper bolt. And we'll make sure that we'll tighten this down to the right spec, because I'm assuming that the top must have sheared off. No. The bolt is what's missing there, it just must have sheared off. So we'll go ahead and poke this puppy in. Oh, ha! We still have the remnants of the old bolt in there. Ha. Actually, this is the caliper glide pin bolt. So I think what I'm going to do, I'm just going to take this out. Aha! See there? That's where the rest of the bolt was sheared off. Well, I got called away briefly on this. I'm going to work a little bit at trying to free up that caliper bolt out of the slide pin. But since I have a replacement bolt, I'm not going to work too hard at it. If I can get it out, I'll get it out. Otherwise, I'll just go ahead and replace the whole thing. I'm going to see if I can just take this pick. But it's acting like this thing is really stuck in there. Ah, that's be a great way to jam a pick through your finger. I just don't have anything to grab. I'm willing to try putting a little bit of PB Blaster in here, see if I can loosen that bolt up. Otherwise, we're just going to replace it. We'll let that sit for a few minutes and see if we can loosen it. Otherwise, we're just going to replace it. Here's my replacement bolt, a replacement stud, excuse me. So what we're going to do to solve this problem, is we're going to take off the brake caliper first, and then we're going to take off the rotor, and we're going to bust out that bad stud and then draw the new one in to replace it. So we'll go ahead and get this caliper removed. Now, rather than waste any more time, I'm going to take this caliper off as an assembly, and rather than waste any more time trying to get that old bolt, I'm just going to go here to the new caliper glide pin, and we're just going to replace it. So I'm taking, just like I were doing a regular brake job, I'm taking just some caliper grease, and I'm going to give this new bolt a nice slathering of grease. Make sure you can see that. Just giving that a nice slather of brake grease. And I'm going to put that right here in the boot. And you heard it pop. And then I will put the caliper back on. And now I'm taking the bolt here. There we go. And I'm just going to get this caliper bolt finger tight for now, because I'm going to take this off as an assembly. So that fixes the broken bolt problem.
what I've done is I just took the needle nose pliers, held the glide pin in place, and just thumb tightened the caliper bolt to get this assembly back together. So that fixes the problem with the sheared bolt. That was causing our knocking. That was the source of all of our problems. But since we discovered this sheared off, this one whole thread of this thing is sheared off, and that's why the bolt, the lug nut will stick, and that's why I had to plow through it, basically shear it off. I've tested that bolt on some other studs and it works just fine. So the bolt, the lug nut itself is okay. So what we're going to do is we're going to take off the caliper, pull off the rotor, and then we're going to beat that bad stud out and then pull a new one in its place. So we're just going to get these caliper bolts right there and right there, and just take the caliper off all at once. Okay. Okay, there's one bolt. And I cannot reach the other one with my impact. Okay. There we go. Now what we're going to do, now that we've got the caliper hung up here, what we're going to do is we're going to take a hammer, this is our bad stud, and we're going to basically whale this thing out this way, and then we're going to put the new one in its place, and we're going to draw it in using the impact. That way it will push those splines into the hub and secure it nice and tight. So the first thing we got to do is beat that sucker out of there. I don't have my tripod, so I can't promise that I'm going to try to do this with one hand while taping it, so you can see how this is going to come out. Oh wow, that came out super easy. Okay. There we go. Ha! Got it. Alright, sometimes you just have to get angry with it. So now, what we're going to do, we're going to take our new stud, and we're just going to put it back through the other end. And once we get it past the dust shield, we'll put some other washers or nuts in there, and then we will draw it in with our impact, so let me get it past the dust shield. There we go. Ha! That was easy enough. So now all we got to do, we want to make sure we draw that in nice and straight. And what's important to notice, you may not be able to see it in the video, but there's a little detent in the front end of the axle shaft right here. I have to assume that's intentional to give you room to draw this thing in. And it's also really important that you draw it in straight, because if you draw this thing in crooked, I don't know that it would be as secure, it would not be as sound to repair. So what I'm going to do to draw this in, I'm going to put one of my lug nuts on here, unfortunately, I simply don't have a washer to use the way I had envisioned. I'm going to have to pull this thing in with just the nut. I don't have a 22 millimeter bolt. So again, what we're going to do, we're going to use the lug nut to draw in to use the screw force on the lug nut to draw in the stud in behind the wheel and secure it on those splines. That is in, but I may have ruined my lug nut. Alright. So that lug nut is now in, good and firm, and we've fixed the problem. So, we sacrificed a lug nut, but we got the stud replaced. So the problem is now fixed. We're going to go ahead and put the rotor back on, replace the caliper, and we're done. Okay. We have put the brake caliper back on, got it all torqued to specs. That's 79 foot-pounds for the bracket bolts and 25 foot-pounds for the caliper pin bolts. Everything's put back together, and we've got the new stud in, so all we got to do is replace the wheel and put this thing back together, and we're going to take it for a test drive, and we're done. Okay, we are now inside the car, got her started up. Since we did release I had a little trouble getting the pads back in the caliper, so I took the pads out, put the caliper on, then put the pads back in. It was simpler that way. I just didn't put that on the video. So just to be safe, I'm going to give the brakes a good pump up so they're nice and firm, and now they are. I'm going to release the brake, and we're going to take this for a quick spin around the block. I believe we have solved two problems. We solved a broken caliper bolt and a stripped out wheel lug nut. Everything feels good so far. For a quick spin around the block. And I believe this puppy feels really good. All the wheel and lug nuts have been torqued down, all the proper factory specs, and I do believe we've got this problem fixed. No more clicking noise, no strange noises. I think this is now a complete and total fix. Well, folks, this was kind of an interesting lesson. I did not intend to do a video today. This was a total surprise when my daughter told me that her car was making a funny noise. And it's interesting how something really simple, through a simple visual inspection underneath the hood, can reveal one problem that almost seems like a solution, but then you check out something else just to be sure, and you find a much bigger problem that you really did have to fix. We heard about the clunking noise, the knocking noise. We looked under the hood, we saw the hood support rod loose, so we thought that was going to be it. Quick fix, no big deal, almost not even worth doing a video on, until we decided to go ahead and double check that wheel. And when we double checked the wheel, we found the lug nut was seized on, and then the lug nut
led us to discover a bad wheel stud, which had to be replaced. And then once we got that off, then we were able to see that the caliper bracket was loose because the caliper pin bolt had shredded. The head had sheared off. So that had to be replaced. One small thing leads to several more serious things, but we've got it all fixed. The car is not making any noise at all, and all of these things are the kinds of things you can fix yourself. It was a simple fix. I know times are a little strange. Hope you all are safe. Hope your families are safe. Keep in mind first responders that are at the forefront of all the adversity going on right now. We always pray for help and a quick resolution to this situation. We're going to be doing more videos. When and how often remains to be seen, but we've got some fun things to talk about. We're still going to be doing some work on the Sienna. I even picked up an Autel automotive scope that I would like to do a couple of demo videos on. I got it right when all of this other stuff in the world started happening, so I really haven't even had a chance to play with it. But I will be doing a video on that soon. I want to thank all of our new subscribers. We've had probably a 10 to 15% increase in subscribers just in the last couple of weeks, and I sure appreciate it. So if you like what we do, hit the subscribe button, hit the notification button. We continue to put these out when we can, but most of all, be safe, everybody. Thanks for watching and have a blessed day. Bye-bye.